What's up? Happy Monday on the CHGO Bears Podcast. We got a loaded big Monday show for you today. We have players who have been signed to contracts. This is a big thing. This qualifies as big news for the Chicago Bears these days, to sign any player, really. And we have that to talk about today. What's up, guys? Olin Kreutz, Nicholas Moreano here with you, and my name is Adam Hoge.
Well, we had to do some digging, though, and with some of these players, right? Like, okay, it's Matt Adams and Tavon Young, but, yeah, big news because the Bears are actually doing stuff, kind of.
Right, and they all, each player, when you dig into it, you kind of figure out how they're tied to the Bears and how to fit the scheme. And, and I'm sure we'll get into all of that. But, you know, like we talked about, it's just there's no huge splash here. And I don't think there really is one coming this year, to be honest. It's like,
at this point,
you know, the guys with the most talent will probably come through the draft. The guys with the greatest promise, right? And you're hoping you get one or two. I think you guys both brought up the other show, Akeem Hicks. You know, one or two guys that maybe just well, to be honest, I remember watching Akeem Hicks in New Orleans and just thinking, who is this monster? And then I think he went to New England, and they call it the rub, right? You go to New England and you get coached up by Bill Belichick, and you learn how to be a pro. But anyway, hopefully somebody like that we get here for the Bears.
But even Akeem came in year 2 of that regime, so it took a while. And by the way, Tommie Harris will join us here in about 20 minutes, so make sure you tune in for that. Go tell somebody, tell a friend. Tommie Harris, big show today, so he'll be joining us here. A lot to talk to him about. But yeah, I have a Bears mailbag coming out today at allchgo.com, so our members can check that out. But one of the questions I got on our Discord channel was about the Bills and what Brandon Beane has done in Buffalo. There's been some comparisons there, and I went back and looked at his first year, 2017, and if you just look at the amount of signings he had to make. So he immediately trimmed off a lot of fat on that roster. He traded Sammy Watkins, right? Reggie Ragland. Like, there's a bunch of guys he got rid of. And then there was like 50 signings. Like, I didn't count them up, but it was just this really long line of signings. And, like, when you looked at the money, they were all just like one-year deal, 2-year deal, 1-year deal, 2-year deal, and not a lot of money. So I understand those comparisons. That's kind of what you got to do. Now, the weird thing is the Bills actually made the playoffs that year. But then they dipped in year 2. Remember that game? The Bears went out to Buffalo. I think Nathan Peterman started the game. Oh, yeah. I think Josh Allen was hurt. They drafted Josh.
When wasn't he averaging like 4 or 5 interceptions a game?
Somewhere around
and immediately he threw another one. But, you know, to your point, it's like you're just waiting to see the plan unfold. I mean, everyone kind of knows where the Bears are, right? They have to rebuild this team. This regime comes in. You heard Ryan Poles talk about it. The culture, the atmosphere, which, man, that's just not those other, you know, Coach Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace were here for 4 or 5, 6, 7 years. You know, obviously Ryan Pace longer, but to have to burn the whole thing down and rebuild it again, it's just crazy. But that's where we're sitting now, and that's why there is not a lot to talk about. But on the other side, you understand what they're trying to do.
Yeah, you know, when we talk about building up this culture, which I think the Bears are trying to do you think they have to do that because they know, like, this year it's going to be tough? So you need to bring in guys in that locker room that, hey, we're probably not going to win that many games this season, right? This is not the year the Bears are going to be competitive. But if you have the right people in the locker room so you can see the other side of it, it's better to kind of have that culture established right here, obviously with the new GM, new head coach. So maybe that can help in the long run, but because, like we're saying, like, a lot of the guys are bringing in, not really helping out the Bears all too much.
What year, Adam, was Allen drafted there?
Josh Allen? Yeah, so that's one big key difference. So he was drafted in 2018. So
Beane drafted him.
Yeah, so Beane drafted him. That was the second year they were there. And they actually took a step back that year, partially probably because of all the reloading they did the first year.
And Allen's a rookie. Did he start that year?
He played like 11, 12 games. So I didn't really remember the circumstances of why Nathan Peterman started that game. Was
the ball there in 18?
I think so. I think he was there from the point Josh Allen got there.
Gotcha.
And, so that is one key difference, and I wrote about that in my response to the question in my mailbag, which is, yes, definitely understand what they're doing now. A lot of comparisons, but one key difference is when the Bills took that step back in year 2, I don't know that the Bears will necessarily have to do that. It will depend on the quarterback. It will depend because you can't afford to take a step back in Justin Fields' 3rd season if he's good. Because now all of a sudden you're down to 1 year left on that rookie deal and having to make a decision on the 5th-year option.
When they took the step back, were there injuries that year after the first year, or was it just they were clearing out the roster and bringing in other guys and developing young players?
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head about the injuries, but yes, I would think that the changes, because by the way, it wasn't just trading Sammy Watkins. They let Stephon Gilmore sign elsewhere for big money. They let Robert Woods go to LA for big money. So they let some other big players go. I don't necessarily know. I guess the comps would be like letting Allen Robinson go to a different team or trading Khalil Mack. Like that's a little bit different than just trying to trade away somebody who doesn't fit your culture. Khalil Mack fits any culture.
I guess to your point though, it's when you sit back and think about it and you get caught up in analyzing it immediately, right? Looking at what's going on, like, gosh, we still don't have a left tackle. Here we sit in mid-April, no left tackle, right? We still don't have a number 1 wide receiver. We still don't have a 3 technique. We still don't have a left cornerback. We still don't have a tone setter at safety. So it's like, what did they do? But Ryan Poles, Ian Cunningham, they're telling you, we have to rebuild this whole thing. And we're going to try to do it the right way, and that's through the draft, get young players, develop them, and then that'll equal lasting success. The most important thing we all understand is the quarterback. But, man, when you come in, and, Adam uses Buffalo, so we'd all have to look at the comparison between that. But when you come in, how long do we have to wait since there hasn't been a playoff win here since 2010 2011 playoffs? That is a long time to wait. Now they're asking for more patience. And that's the hard thing. When you watch the Chicago Bears, when you go into last year thinking, man, why are they giving these 2 guys 1 more year? Because if this doesn't work, this is a car wreck.
Yeah. Well, but again, I want to be clear. I think one key difference here is the timing with the quarterback. So when Brandon Beane and company are going into year 2 out there in Buffalo, they just drafted Josh Allen. And then Josh Allen didn't look that good as a rookie. So then they're going into year 3, Josh Allen's 2nd year, but year 3 for the regime, and they're still wondering, what the hell is this guy? Like, is this going to work out or not? They traded for him, right? So
Yep, 7th overall.
So then, Josh Allen is working. He is this phenomenon. Then they go all in going in 2020 when they make the Stephon Diggs trade. So to me, the key difference here is if Justin Fields takes off like Josh Allen did in his 2nd season, right? Then by next year, the Bears are going to be like, okay, we got all this cap space. We still got a pretty decent defense, right? I'm just saying I don't know that it'll take as long as it did for the Bills to build that thing up. And by the way, it only really took them 3 or 4 years to really get going before they became, a playoff team regularly.
I think it'll be encouraging, too, if Justin Fields can take off with Luke Getsy as a first-year offensive coordinator in a new offense, right? I mean, that's what Josh Allen had when Brian Dable came in 2018. Like you said, it did take a year for him to actually get going, but if you could see that growth this season, like that is encouraging for a team that will be more in a position to add more around Justin Fields, because completely honest, right now it's still not there. So if they can show that this season, like I said, the record might not indicate that the Bears are a better team, but if Justin Fields looks better in Luke Getsy's offense, you'll definitely take that.
Yeah, you always got to be careful with comparisons, especially when Adam studies it and then drops it on us, and none of us have studied it yet. That's okay.
That's why you gotta. That's why you gotta read.
He likes to be the genius on the podcast.
CHGO.com.
So he comes on. He says, "Well, I did the Bills, but I know you and Nicholas didn't really look at it at all. But why don't we talk about that for the first 15 minutes?" But anyway, we'll take a good look at that comparison with the Bills and the Bears. You know what I mean? And you have to be clear if you're going to compare the two. You have to be clear about actually who was on the team, what did they have, what their defense were ranked, who was offensive line, who was the wide receivers, because the Bears don't have wide receivers, right? So the Bills go out, they trade for Stephon Diggs, and they get them all these guys, but
sign Cole
it's not. It's just like you have to see, but me and Nicholas will take our time and look over this Buffalo Bills comparison because we didn't get it in our Notion or whatever they call that, and we'll try to look over it.
Yep.
Shout out to Notion.
Shout out Notion.
No, the real problem here is I don't follow the playbook. I get out there and I just kind of.
That's what happens to guys who are not part of team sports.
I know, and then I just go out and do my own
thing.
They play it
That's
direct.
week 3 versus.
All right, let's stick to the playbook
they don't have
here.
Team. They don't have like running. They don't have like meetings. You got to install all that kind of stuff.
By the way, there was a shout out to you in that mailbag.
Yeah, well.
And by shout out, I mean shot.
I gotta stand out. I gotta study the mailbag. I guess I gotta sign up for CHGO.
Come on.
Then maybe we'll get shirts.
Yeah.
Maybe we can all wear.
By
CHGO
shout out,
shirts.
I mean shot.
That's an evil laugh.
By shout out, I mean shot.
Let's stick to the playbook here. All right.
Well, we gotta get one first.
No, it's right here. It's all here. All right, let's talk
lap.
about these guys that the Bears did sign in the last few days.
That'd be good. That was in Notion.
Because Tavon Young. Let's start with Tavon Young. I actually like this signing. A guy who he's missed seasons at a time. That's just one season, but back-to-back seasons due to injuries. And but then he came back last year, played most of the season for the Baltimore Ravens, and pretty solid player. I mean, so to me, if he's healthy, he is an upgrade at that slot corner, which has been a need that we've talked about here on the show for a while. So these are the types of chances, Olin, that I think they're trying to take, right? You sign them to a 1-year deal, not a lot of money. You're kind of taking a flyer on a talented player who's struggled to stay healthy. It's really a boom or bust situation.
Well, most people will say the same thing about Tavon Young, right? Competitive, very good slot cornerback, willing tackler, talking to Matt Bowen about him. Obviously, Matt Bowen knows a lot about secondary play. Willing tackler, just a guy who can perform as long as we've talked about his injuries, right? So another guy that the Bears sign and hope that he works out. But you have a guy there who has played slot corner in the league. He is a veteran. He is capable of playing it. So if you have young guys like Duke Shelley around, you have young guys like maybe you're going to try Thomas Graham Jr. there at the slot. Maybe you're taking a look there at a guy helping these guys develop into a slot cornerback also, right? So we're not just going to give him the job and make him the starter. We're gonna have all these guys in camp, but we also have a guy here who's played this position at a pretty high level when healthy.
Yeah, I actually had an article come out today what a healthy Tavon Young could mean for the Bears defense. And this is a guy that, after the 2018 season, was the highest paid nickel corner in the league for how he had played. And then 2019, one of those seasons that he ended up missing. But even last season for the Ravens, they had multiple cornerbacks go down. They moved him to the outside for a lot of the games, starting from week 10 to kind of finish it out. And, he was able to perform there as well. So I wonder if it could give Matt Eberflus, Allen Williams some options. Like, do you want to see a Thomas Graham in the slot? Could you put a Tavon Young for the outside in the time being? He gives you some flexibility that you could potentially do that.
Well, Sammy asked a question here in the comments with the signing of Tavon. Can you move Graham to the outside? I think I think we sometimes fall into the trap of like we're trying to just fill out the whole roster with
as it
players
is
that are
right
here
now. Yeah.
Like my guess is, and we talked about this on the show before, you wanted to bring in somebody to compete with Thomas Graham. Like we all find Thomas Graham Jr. to be an intriguing player, but he's completely unproven, very little tape. If you're going to roll into week 1 with him and not make him compete for that job in training camp, that's not the way you go about it. So now you bring in a guy who may or may not stay healthy.
Yep.
Very low risk involved, but a talented guy that Thomas Graham now has to show up to training camp, and you got to be like, all right, well, now I got to beat this proven player out. And that only helps you overall. Then if they're both playing well and they're both healthy,
it's a good problem to have.
That's when you start to have the conversation about, well, how do we get both of these guys on the field at the same time?
Yeah, I think what they're doing is getting more competition into the building, right? And I think that's going to continue with the draft. That'll continue with bringing more guys in the secondary in through the draft, competing at what they're doing, and having these guys say, okay, like you're saying, well, you could do either or, right? You could put Tavon Young outside if Thomas Graham shows you he's the better slot corner. So you could do, like you guys are saying, if they play well, you could do, then that's actually a good problem to have. But the Bears just need more bodies
They do.
in the building, on the field. Take a look at them, and these contracts don't really hurt them, right? So if Tavon Young doesn't play, doesn't get hurt, this is not some huge contract. It's kind of a prove-it deal. And if you do find, we just talked about Akeem Hicks, if you do find, say, you're Akeem Hicks at slot cornerback, then it was a good signing,
Absolutely.
you know?
And it also fits what the Bears.
Wait, hold on. I got to jump in.
Yeah.
No, we saw it. We don't need to talk
well,
about
for
it.
those
You've had it on
listening
the
to the-
screen for 5 minutes.
But for
Lawrence.
those listening
I
to
think
the
everybody's read the
podcast-
comment.
For those listening to the podcast later, I think
Well, they don't
need
need to- they
mention
don't need
what
to see
Quentin Brown said here. Olin, do you want to read this one?
Yes, a slam dunk signing, or maybe just a layup if you're Hoge, LOL. I missed that.
Okay. Yeah, that's
They're
all I
saying
wanted
they
to.
can't dunk,
Yeah.
so it's just a layup.
Well, I can't dunk.
Who called it a slam dunk signing, by the way?
8-foot rims, though. Maybe they can bring it down for me.
Oh, that we can. Now
Oh,
we can
I would-
have
It's
fun.
the landing for me now.
Actually, that would be really
the
fun.
jumping's fine.
Well,
the
this
landing
Just
bugs me.
once you
Yes.
come down.
Maybe this 3-on-3 tournament that everyone wants us to play, we should do 8-foot rims.
This
It'd be
that
pretty
That
fun.
would
It'd
be fun.
That
That would be fun.
There'd be a lot of highlights.
Where
going
would we
around.
find 8-foot rims?
I don't know, and it would also greatly increase the chances we all get hurt.
No doubt. Trying to
too.
go for like alley oops and dunks and yeah.
All right, quickly before we're going to bring in Tommie Harris here, I do want to address the other two guys the Bears signed. Matt Adams, a linebacker, again, just a depth guy here, special teams type player who has familiarity with Matt Eberflus. So, you know, he's been in the league for a little bit, 7th round pick. This fits the mold of some of the players we talked about last week when Ryan Poles talked to Kevin Fishbain. We had Fishbain on the podcast talking about resiliency, late round draft picks, undrafted guys who have had to fight to stay in the league. Certainly Matt Adams qualifies as one of those players. Then the other one is Ryan Griffin, a tight end who's been in the league for a few years as well. You know, just a solid type player, plays all over special teams in all the phases.
Ryan Griffin does.
Yeah. And so those types of players help you. It helps you make the roster. And
I didn't see. I haven't studied Matt Adams enough. What linebacker position do we know what he plays?
That's a good question.
Will, Sam, Mike, or all three maybe off the ball?
well, I actually don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But I know that another player that came in to visit, according to Brad Biggs, was Anthony Hitchens.
I think Hitchens. Okay.
And Hitchens
Okay.
Hitchens can play that Sam spot. Matt Eberflus said in Florida a couple weeks ago that he wants that Sam spot to be able to back up the other spots too.
Like a Hunter Hillemeyer type.
Yeah.
Like when Hunter would play for Urlacher.
Right. Urlacher comes
Now,
out,
Did
Hunter slides
Hitchens
over.
play for Eberflus in Dallas? Is that correct?
Did.
Yes.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
and
he
then
was a linebackers coach.
that Griffin, you would imagine Getsy, he played for Kubiak his rookie year, right? And Periani. So that is the outside zone scheme. They didn't play for Mike LaFleur last year.
Yes.
Again, the outside zone scheme. You would think, I'm just Cole Kmet. We all hoping he takes a jump. I heard you guys talking about him. Obviously, the book isn't written on him yet. Not a great job blocking last year at the point of attack. So you bring a guy in, and the name that comes to my mind immediately is Mercedes Lewis in Green Bay. And they like to run behind Mercedes. And Mercedes is a monster. But Ryan Griffin hopefully gives you they lined him up this year on the line of scrimmage a lot in New York. I think so. And he was a pretty good outside zone blocking tight end there. So, and you know, this scheme, they like to run also those quick pop-out passes where the linebacker is blocking the cornerback and the safety. So you need a tight end who can execute those blocks in space. Yep. I will say when I watched the film this year, Cole took a step back, I thought, in his blocking. Now, we talked about scheme, we talked about coaching, we talked about all those things in the developmental process of a young player. And that's why it'll be interesting to see this year what Cole looks like and how Luke Getsy sees him using him. And what type of player do they run at him at the point of attack?
Well, it's a great point because, yes, at that tight end position, that I think sometimes we forget. They have to block.
Block, yes. Well, especially in this, is that Tommie Harris.
Yeah. If you ever end up in a situation where a tight end's blocking Tommie Harris, you know something.
Oh, no, you're in trouble.
Really, really, really wrong.
A tight end is not blocking Tommie Harris. I'll tell you that much right now.
Tommie, what's up, man? Welcome into the show. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, sir. How y'all doing, man? Is this good, or should I get on the laptop?
Oh, you're good.
You
as
look
long
good,
as we can
Tommie,
see
man.
your
What's
face.
up?
I'm chilling, Olin. What's going on, bro?
I'm doing good, man. It's good to see you.
You too, man.
Well, Tommie is, of course, as we try to talk about some of the players who have played in this scheme, had success in this defensive scheme. Tommie, we'll start with you there. I don't know how much you've been paying attention to what the Bears are doing, but it's kind of like a blast from the past. We've had Urlacher on the show talking about how they're trying to get these linebackers going. You played the all-important position on that defensive line that really makes this whole scheme go. What do you think about just the overall direction, Matt Eberflus, and what they're trying to do here in Chicago, bringing back some of what you guys did so well under Lovie Smith?
I think that's what the city of Chicago stands for, that toughness, that tough defense, attacking, not sitting back on your heels. And I'm just happy. I'm looking forward to something different than last year because I don't know what happened. But I'm excited about the guys up front and just seeing guys attacking the quarterback like we used to.
Yeah, Tommie, Alan Williams has talked about how important the 3-tech is for this Bears defense. Let me ask you, what is the most difficult part about playing that vital position for this defense?
The most difficult part about that, I don't really know. I just know that the 3 technique got to be special. I mean, that's what really makes that defense and everything else click, because it's a know your area defense, be in your space. So that under tackle is that guy that can kind of speed up time and get the ball out faster, disrupt in the backfield. If they're not making a play, they're disrupting blocking schemes. So that guy has to be a big-time disruptor.
Tommie, man, when you came in, you were 14th pick of the 2004 draft in the first round. We were all looking out for number 97, obviously. That's an inside joke. 2-time consensus All-American Lombardi Trophy winner, Tommie. When you came in, we knew from the first play with your first step, we knew you were trouble. Like, your first step was amazing. But I want to ask you about going back to Bob Stoops. There's been a lot of talk about the hits principle and how much you have to run to the ball in Lovie Smith's defense and the buy-in from young guys coming out of college and even older guys in the NFL. Talk to us a little bit about that. Now, I don't know much about Coach Stoops and how you guys used to hustle and practice stuff, but talk to us about the buy-in for NFL players running to the ball every time, that kind of hustle. Coach Eberflus said these guys better bring their track shoes. Talk to us about being a leader on that kind of defense.
Oh, yeah, that kind of defense, you're hunting. You know, Rod Marinelli did a great job, that Tampa 2, just instilling mentally, Ron Rivera, just instilling mentally 1 = 11. So if you're getting to that ball, if you're around the ball, something big can happen. I remember the year, I think it was Super Bowl year, man. It was like Peanut was knocking the ball loose. You wanted to be around where Peanut was around because something was going to pop out. So we just had a good time, excited about being around the football. That's all that Tampa 2 is about, being around the football. The camera follows the football. So we used to take it upon ourselves to make bets. Who's going to stay in the film? Who's going to stay in the film the longest? Who's in the film? And I think it was Rod Marinelli started making us run if we wasn't around the ball in film at the end of the play. So we've always had you challenge one another to play at their max and to take care of their responsibility, which makes the whole defense looks good.
Well, Tommie, you obviously had that combination of quickness, speed with your strength. That's what made you so dangerous. Olin, maybe I'll ask you. Maybe you guys, I don't know. We hear some practice stories here, but what was it like trying to block that in practice?
It was impossible. Tommie was that good. He was that good. But that's the thing about when we talk about this scheme, right? Like, you don't hide guys like Tommie Harris. So I don't know, Tommie, if you saw that they tried to sign Larry Ogunjobi. I don't know if you've watched much film on him. And I know you went through your own injury problems. And what did you feel about how did you feel when he didn't get that contract? And I know we'll get to practice stories, but Tommie, listen, I was the center. I didn't have to see Tommie too much at 3 technique, but just that whole your first step, what the Bears, how you train to be that kind of player with that first step, get off the ball. But what a lot of people don't understand about Tommie also was now he was super strong. So even when he got into you, if you got your hands on him, you were still in for quite the war.
Yeah, so my whole thing, Olin, that weight room was that was important. That's where I met Olin at every day. Like, I used to see that man in there boxing trying to do all his little. Olin lived in the weight room, man, and I wanted to follow after the vets, the guys that had success in this league. They lived in the weight room. They took care of their bodies all day, and that was extremely important. My get off was something I learned in college from Jackie Shipp, but we did a lot of one-leg get-offs, and I think that strengthened my get-off a lot, just getting off the ball on one leg. But this kid that did not get his contract, I understand 100% about injuries, playing through pain. I hope it gets better for him. But I know he would have been a big accommodation for the Bears. So we got to find somebody in there that could turn over his feet, disrupt the ball, disrupt the timing, and I think the Bears got a shot.
Tommie, do you think that Justin Jones, the guy that, replaced Larry Ogunjobi, could potentially be that for this Bears defense? Quite not the player that the Bears initially wanted to go get, but have you seen anything of Justin Jones that could show you that he can maybe be that guy?
Yeah, I feel like he can develop. And especially it's all about if you got a horse in the race, it's about the coach. It's the coach who trains the trainer. It's very important who is managing that. If he can bring that out of that guy, and there's no greater city to do it. I mean, I miss it, man, big time, man. And especially, it's sad it takes football to be over to wish you can. I wish I would have took advantage of that moment and took advantage of that moment. So just really telling the young guys that are out there to take advantage of this moment. You got a small window to be special. And just suck it all, take it all in, and never take one day never take one day for advantage.
I want to make sure our viewers and listeners know that Tommie has a book out called Endure. I saw that T-shirt you're wearing too. And look, man, you've been through a lot. Whether it's the physical injuries, the mental impact of tragically losing your wife, and we've had some of these conversations before, but you've done such a good job too of sharing your message with everybody really in this form of this book, but also a lot of players. You've spoken to players, had some memorable speeches. Just what is your overall approach, and why has that become so important to what you're doing since your playing days?
I feel like losing my wife made me more empathetic towards situations or people that are in loss. And it's a funny thing. It's kind of one of those things you don't want to meet those people because you have to meet them on those circumstances. But I try to just pick those people up with the courage I have or what I've used to turn tragedy into triumph on a daily basis. And just to encourage each individual, the one that have not been through a deficit yet, encourage them to take advantage of their situations, their wives, their children, their time while they have it. And the ones that are in the deficit to not give up, to continue to keep fighting. So that's what Endure is, just day by day turning tragedy into triumph. You can't make it out of here alive. So just learn how to live and enjoy your life while you got it, man, and just make the best of it. We look at the young man, what's his name, out of Miami, that just happened.
Haskins.
I talk about Dwayne Haskins over the weekend.
Yeah,
I was going to ask you about that because I'm sure there's a message out of your book that would apply there.
Yeah, rest his soul, and I pray for his family. I've been praying for them just in this moment. I know what that's like, and that's really a bad day. A bad day is when a hearse is pulling up in front of your house. Anything other than that, we'll take care of it. We'll work through it. We'll get through it one more day. Just don't give up. Whoever out there holding on, just don't give up, and you can turn your tragedy into a triumph if you endure.
And I can tell you guys from firsthand experience that Tommie means that's close to his heart, helping people and always trying to inspire people. And two other people that have to endure, Tommie, I want to ask you about Tyson and Tinsley and what are they up to? And that young Tyson, get him on the football field. Now I've been hearing some things, and explain that to us. Explain that to us, and explain to us how he's doing, because he looks like a monster, man.
My kid he's humongous. He's about 6'1", 228. Wears size 13 shoe. He's a big old guy. He just broke the shot.
Get him those boxing gloves now. Get him those gloves.
Oh yeah, he work in the gym.
Okay.
He work in the gym, but I'm not letting him go to ninth grade to really. We do football training, we do work, but I'm not. I'm trying to protect his head. I'm doing what his mom asked me to do.
Got you.
If it was up to me, I would have thrown him out there a long time ago. But just trying to respect that. And then my daughter she's a real angel. Like I thank God for her, bro. Smart as ever. And just watching them continue to grow. And also Madison. I have another daughter, Madison, also. So just being able to see all them grow, bro, has been that's what I live for today.
Well, I don't want to block Tyson. I know that, man. I don't want to deal. I know, even though he'll play tonight. No, I don't. What are you talking about? Listen, you can't lean. You're leaning. You gotta stop leaning.
Yeah, man.
Hey, Tommie, on that topic, though, of letting your kids play football, in waiting until they get to that high school level, there's still that can work. I mean, I've seen it coaching high school myself. We had a tight end who had never played until he was a sophomore. He just got a scholarship, what is your approach there and the reasoning for that in kind of waiting?
Well, as I'm on the back end of football and trying to get disability, CTE is coming out more, awareness of it. The movie Concussions at the end of my career was coming out. So I started to get into really protecting the brain and how long can you do it. And I was reminded of Julius Peppers and me one day in the Colts, and he told me I didn't play football. I didn't start playing football until I was in 10th grade. I just played basketball. I said, "Are you serious, bro?" He said, "Yeah, I did. I only played. I saved my whole body up until 10th grade, and then I started playing." And I saw my son. I put him in pads at seven years old one time, and he broke the state record in rushing in Little League. So I knew he's a football player. I knew he got it. He's tough. So once I saw he had it, I said, "Okay, I gotta protect. Just keep him." All the stuff I didn't like to stretch. I just always heard you never see a cheetah stretch before they go chase her. So I didn't know I was a cheetah in Chicago. That's a cold place to be without stretching. So I'm trying to get him to learn how to open his body up, stretch, and just be more flexible. And also instill in him that he can learn and compete on a high level of education. And then he can get into all that other stuff. But I keep him up to date. He goes to OU football camps, Texas different camps, and he'll be ready.
Hey, Tommie, I remember one time I was walking in the locker room, and Pep looked at me with his Skittles in his hand. He goes, "Hey, you don't need all that working out. You just need these Skittles." And I said, "Pep, I am not a genetic freak like you. I'm going to go work out. You keep eating those Skittles." And all I'm trying to relate to the listeners is there's some Tyson Harrises, there's some Pep Hamilton. You're probably not them.
Yeah.
You're probably not Julius Peppers, so you might want to trade.
Tommie, with the draft coming up, I wanted to know, have you looked into Perion Winfrey at all, being an Oklahoma guy? Have you looked into him or know anything about him?
Tommie, you muted yourself on accident. If you could unmute yourself.
That's going to be an interesting topic for Tommie. Tommie must know about Perion. And Perion is one of the guys that the Bears are going to look at in that
fit that three technique,
that three technique role, right? So he was a guy I know you were high on when you watched it, and he could be a guy, if he's there, depends on where Pose has him ranked on his board. You would wonder, would they take a three technique at some point because they didn't get Ogunjobi?
Exactly, yeah. Tommie, can you hear us?
Yeah, I know much about Perion. I've had a chance to watch him the last 2 years, and one of my best friends coached him, Coach Thibodeau at Oklahoma. Perion's a very explosive guy. He's ferocious in the middle. He's a good pass rusher, and he has a high potential. If he gets a good coach, gets in the hands of Perrion could be a very disruptive guy, very successful guy in that middle
Talk
position.
to us a little bit about Tommie. You've mentioned a few times now about coaching. A lot of people don't realize how important that is in the NFL, how important a good coach, a guy to teach you how to watch film, a guy to teach you how to attack an offensive lineman a certain way, because it turns more into a chess match, as you know, in the NFL than just running at guys. Talk to us a little bit about how important it was for you to have these high-level defensive line coaches and for these young guys to come in and get a good coach.
I think that's the thing that separates the J.J. Watts and the Vince Wilforks and the Warren Sapps, and it's all the guys that were training them at their height of their career. When I got in the league, I had all college coaches my first 3 years. And it was like when Rod Marinelli came, I was done. My hamstring was gone. I was giving him, he squeezed the last out of the lemon. Whatever was left, he got the last.
I remember that leg walking around that locker room, man. I go, hey, man, what's wrong with your leg?
Dragging it, bro. I was dragging it around. But, man, I think that coach is so important, man. Rod Marinelli made me want to throw away those first couple years of my career. I was like, what was I doing? And he said, Tommie, you thought you was always getting double teamed. He said, you was lining up to the double, dummy. So he started teaching me how to get the one-on-one. He said, Warren Sapp, we put him in positions to always get the one-on-one and beat the one-on-one. So as Rod came, I was kind of one step slower, and I still put up some numbers, but not like what I could have did if I had the extra oomph. But it was just amazing to see how someone can open up X's and O's beyond just getting off the rock and making noise, but really knowing strategy, where to be to make yourself most successful.
Hey, Tommie, that's really interesting. I realize that, just kind of hearing you talk about what could have been different, I guess, the first couple of years of your career. I realize some of that's not, in your control, coaching, being put in the right spot. But I guess what would your advice be then to some of these young kids coming out of college right now and how to handle those first couple of years? Even if they're first-round picks, I mean, they may feel like they can walk in and do everything week one this year, but they got a lot of learning to do and a lot of maturing to do at the NFL level, right?
Oh, yeah, and that's day by day, and you just have to be committed to it. And one thing I wish, like it took Rod Marinelli to come for me to learn. He said, Tommie, there are many professional football players, but there's only a few that are professional. And I just started learning that in year 6. I said, what do you mean? He said, check out how guys come to work, how guys approach get a certain guy you look at. Like Olin would come in dressed in golf clothes with his lunch, and you could tell he was seasoned. He'd been there forever. Who comes to work with a Rolex watch on to go play football? Olin coming there. So, certain guys had it they knew that they were going to work. I thought it was still football, just a game. I was very lighthearted, took a lot of stuff. If I could do it over and had someone to sit me down and say, hey, man, you got this amount of time to be as special as you can. If you can shut off the noise, stay focused in this one place and keep your body in, man, my experience would have been so much greater. It was great already. I just want to tell the people that are listening that it's in that moment, man, for real, focus. You got a little window to be a lot for a lot of people for a long time. If you could just focus in this window and make the most of it.
Tommie, we had Brian Urlacher on the podcast a couple weeks ago. How does having a linebacker like that help your job, and how do you help a guy out like that?
Well, Brian never helped me, so.
Hell yeah. Tell him, T.
Brian, man, I love Brian, man. Just, Brian, and Briggs, and Hunter. I mean, that's the whole thing about cover 2. Brian doesn't look good without Hunter. Hunter doesn't look good without Briggs. Briggs doesn't look good. We all kind of, I started off, and it speeds up with me. How I'm
you better mention Tank, or she's going to listen to this and call you.
Oh, no. There's no question, but Tank's a given, man. I didn't want to pick it between Tank and Spice Adams.
My fault. Yeah, both of them. Both of the guys.
And then Hunter is that Hunter took some damage. I used to watch that film, I didn't know how much his job was just to crash on that in. But putting all those guys together, Urlacher, to have a linebacker that big that could cover the seams and play downhill, it was just unbelievable. And there would be many games where we just had an unspoken language. He'll come up, and if I see him move a certain way, I know I got freedom to do whatever I want to do, and he's going to cover me. Mm-hmm. So that's all I remember Lack would say, stay. If you're going to mess up, if you're going to stay, pick that gap, stay in your gap, dummy. Stupid. So,
hey, Tommie, 2006, a play that a lot of people watched that I think is an example of just how great you were. And people don't talk about who you're lined up on. Hall of Fame left guard Hutchinson. The center is Matt Burke, one of the best centers of his time. Take us through that play late there in Minnesota. We need a big play. The offense is not scoring any points. Walk the listeners through the play. Did you read that there was going to be a gap scheme and that Hutchinson was pulling? Did you know the snap count? How did you get there that early, beat Burke's back block, and cause that fumble to get us the ball late in that game? Walk us through that play.
Okay, so first I get to the sideline. We come off the field. Defense gets the offense the ball back. We feel like we're out of it. Wilkes is looking down. Coach Drake is looking down. I say, man, get y'all head up. The game ain't over with. I'm going to make the play. I'm going to get us the ball back. The next play, Wilkes always remind me of this. God rest in peace, Drake. He told me this at Drake's funeral. But I watch film. I've been studying Hutchinson forever. Like, I always averaged like 2 sacks against them because Hutchinson always gave away the snap count. If he was stiff on one, and then on one he was ready to go. On two, he played like a statue.
Right.
So I
got you.
knew the hard count was coming, and I just anticipated all. I knew he was pulling. I knew I had to get in the backfield. And you were one of the only centers I had to go over the top. I couldn't go around back because you shut that option off. But I knew that the center couldn't get to me when I lined up I tightened down just a little bit. I was gonna beat the center around and took the handoff from Chester, knocked it out of his hand.
It's a big time play, man. That was an amazing football play. Got us right back in the game. Actually, gave us a chance to win a game we had no business winning.
He scored a touchdown.
Yep.
I liked how he nodded his head the second you said the offense wasn't scoring points.
Yeah, it wasn't. But that year we did.
Yeah.
No,
hey, Tommie, I wish you could see all these comments coming in, man. You are still clearly one of the fan favorites here. All these Bears fans here showing you a lot of love. And just hearing you talk football, it's obviously a ton we could still learn from you. So I appreciate the time today.
Good luck with your new book, man, Tommie. Good to see you, bro.
Hey, thank you, man. Y'all could go check my book, Endure Out, TommieHarris.com. Go check it out, Turning Tragedy into Triumph. And I love y'all. Bear down.
All right, man.
All right, that's awesome. So much good stuff there from Tommie Harris. Yeah, the book is called Endure. I can't wait to check it out myself. And, man, just hearing it's not just our fans. Like, I want to hear players should listen to what he's saying there. Like, just hearing him talk about how he's studying a center,
knowing
especially one in the division. Like, I would stress that. Let me ask you that, Olin, right away. Like, how much did you concentrate especially on the players you saw twice a year in your own division? Because that's got to make a huge difference.
Well, you heard Tommie talk a lot about, and you talk about Rob Marinelli, right? You talk about Warren Sapp, you talk about Booger McFarland, you talk about Tommie Harris, you talk about Max Crosby. Like, these are not all by accident. They're one-man coach, all these defensive linemen. And then you hear him talk about his preparation of the little things. And to your question, really you're studying everyone like that in the NFL. Like, that's your advantage, right? Like, it's everyone runs outside zone. How do you run it? And what Tommie's saying and what you like to tell young players is you don't block the starting nose guard in outside zone like you block the backup nose guard in outside zone. The steps are different. Like, fundamentals are the same, right? So, like, say I meet a young offensive lineman and you're saying, okay, I always tell them, I go, if I took you to a high school, these guys who are coming to the NFL, and I asked you to coach fundamentals of offensive line play, you could do it. So what are we actually working on today? What are we actually looking for? And what you're looking for is what Tommie was talking about, right? Tommie read that that Hutchinson and Hall of Fame left guard and Matt Burke, a guy who's a borderline Hall of Fame center, they had keys to them, right? So like you're saying, and Tom, you heard Tommy talk about like, now this is a business. Well, that's the business part of it, is that everyone is studying just to beat you, not to beat your scheme, and then they're starting to beat your offense coordinator, and then they're starting to beat you in that scheme with your offense coordinator. So that's all different. And I know that's a lot to like digest, but that's what he's trying to say. And that's what the question you're asking. But the thing I found interesting, like you said, you want to listen to him, is it finally hit me when he was talking and we heard Urlacher and we kept talking about how is Eberflus and Alan Williams going to get these guys to buy into this hits principle? And it finally hit me when Tommy was talking, and you see their excitement when they it's like the scheme sells itself, right? The success in the scheme, the balls start popping out, everyone's having fun. We're betting who's going to end up in the screen, who's going to end up in the video. And that's the kind of, I think when you hear about, they say they want to make the atmosphere, the culture a certain way at Hallis Hall. I think when you hear the defensive guys talk about playing for Rod Marinelli, playing for Ron Rivera, playing for Lovie Smith, you hear him joke that Urlacher never did anything for me. That's their camaraderie, right? That's that's how close you hear him rave about Hunter Hillemeyer, right? And we just talked about Hitchens. Like, what would Hitchens provide this linebacker crew? And he said, man, you don't know the kind of work that Hunter Hillemeyer did in that scheme. But it just hit me when what Eberflus them are trying to tell you is the scheme sells itself, right? Like, there is fun to run around and having fun and flying around. And somebody put on Twitter the other day, all those, I'll retweet it, but the defense, there's like 20 guys jumping over the pile. I don't know if you guys seen this video. But that's the biggest thing I got out of that when I was listening to him talk. And then, like, Tommy, you could see him like come alive talking about it.
Yeah, a couple things there, because a lot of good stuff in there, and we did hear Matt Eberflus tell us on the Hoge and Johns podcast about that team tackle idea. If they get 7 guys there on a tackle, that's going to count as a team tackle, and that's part of that. I think that competition you're talking about there, Olin. But way late to tell you guys about our friends at PointsBet. So return to some. And by the way, that play that Olin asked Tommy about is on our Twitter. If you go to Olin's Twitter, if you go to my Twitter, actually Olin's the one who put that video out originally. So check that out if you want to visualize that play that he asked Tommie Harris about. But the best way to support CHGO is to download the PointsBet app. Use code CHGO when you sign up, and if you do that right now, you'll get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. But that's not it, because if you make a $50 or more first-time deposit, you'll receive a free CHGO membership, which unlocks all of our web content. You'll even get a free shirt of your choice from the CHGO locker. So that's $2,000 in free bets, a free CHGO membership, and a free T-shirt from the CHGO locker, all for making more than a $50 first-time deposit at PointsBet. Any questions, email pointsbet@allchgo.com. Your home for live in-play betting just got even better because we are introducing PointsBet's new feature, the Live NBA Same Game Parlay. For the first time ever, you can build the perfect live NBA Same Game Parlay only with PointsBet. And now online sign-up is available in Illinois. You can download the PointsBet app right now. Register your account from start to finish, all from your phone. So what are you waiting for? Once the game starts, don't just bet. Live your bet life with PointsBet. Gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700.
All right, Chicago sports fans, if you aren't a member of our CHGO family, what are you waiting for? Members will get access to all of our premium written content from all of our great writers. Am just had his mailbag out. I have an article on Tavon Young, so you can go check that out on allchgo.com. You also get a free T-shirt of your choice when you become a member, and you get access to the members-only Discord, the CHGO Lounge, and, of course, we have podcasts and live shows like this one on every team, every day. So come join this amazing family that is constantly growing here at CHGO.
Olin,
Yes.
Just hearing you and hearing Tommy, hearing Brian Urlacher on with us a couple weeks ago, how did the Bears recapture that type of camaraderie that you guys still have all these years later? Because that's what impresses me so much. You know, I think and why that's so important is because of what you were just talking about. You saw that on the film when you actually watched the games. Like, you saw them kind of compete with each other to get the takeaway. When you hear Tommie say, oh, Peanut's in the screen, the ball's coming loose. Like, who's going to be the one who gets the ball? Like, those type of friendly competitions, and sometimes not so friendly, because I've heard about some of the special teams battles, too, about who's blocking for Devin and who's getting the credit there. But it all comes together, and all these years later, like, just hearing you guys talk, I think we can all still hear it.
It's a great question, and it's hard to explain. It's something you're always trying to explain when you say, man, you need culture, you need atmosphere, you need certain kind of guys in there. Like, competition is good, and you're saying, okay, it's friendly, not like both competitions in an NFL locker room is good, no matter where you're getting it from, as long as everyone's moving in the same direction, right? But Lovey was a good leader. Brian Urlacher was already there. Mike Brown, those kind of guys. Jim Nagy, the executive director of the Reese's Senior Bowl, we're talking to him on the No Name podcast this week, and he was talking about football character and kind of asked him to define what that is. And just that's football character. Guys who, like, really love the game. Just are there. I mean, we're all there. NFL eventually turns into a business for everybody, right? We're all there for business. But if you love the game, you can't help but get caught up in how fun it is, how great it is to be on a football field with your teammates. Look, we all posted and laughed this when Urlacher and Briggs blew me up, right?
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up.
Because
the tape is even better than the story. Like, they just beeline you.
Right. Well, and then context matters, right? Julius Peppers is blowing up the tight end, and, like, you got to bubble around the tight end because there's Hall of Fame Peppers. I'm trying to bubble around. Hall of Fame Lack, and then Lance Briggs is a Hall of Famer, right? So, but you love all of that, right? Like, you football players, guys who love football, you love getting blown up. You love blowing guys up. You love just all that stuff that comes with it, right? And you can see, and you have to get, the more of those guys you get in the building, the better for you. And we just had a lot of those guys in the building. Credit to Jerry Angelo, credit to Mark Hatley, but Jerry Angelo kept us all around, right? Re-signed Urlacher, re-signed Mike Brown, re-signed a bunch of guys who had high football character, and finding them, getting them all in the building, and all those guys together deciding, look, we're just going to win games. Like, that's all we care about here is winning football games.
You know what, Olin? I wonder, like, obviously, when you have guys like that, like Tommie Harris said, like, hey, I'm going to make the play. Mm-hmm. And when knowing that you have teammates that are capable of doing that, it almost makes you, I would think, want to just hold up your end of the bargain, right? Just
and you guys would agree now, you don't hide. Like, Tommie Harris is just born, right? Tommie Harris was born. Like, you don't hide guys like Tommie Harris, Brian Urlacher, Julius Peppers. And that's the worry about this Tampa 2 defense the Bears have. It's okay. Where are they, right? Now, Eddie Jackson, you can make an argument for extraordinarily talented, right? Roquan Smith, talented. Brian Urlacher was here. Mike Brown was here. Then they got Tommie Harris and Tank Johnson the first year. Tommie was, I think he ran a 4.73 at the combine, and they said he ran a 4.68 at Oklahoma in his 40. Like, when you watch his first step, if Tommie Harris doesn't tear his hamstring, like he's talking about, and he's right. I remember seeing him come back. Remember, the Bears made him the highest paid defensive lineman in the NFL. Yep. Then they gave him 4 years, $40 million. And he already had torn his hamstring, and it would just never really recover from that. I mean, if he stays healthy with Rob Marinelli as his defensive line coach, as his defensive coordinator, the numbers that guy would have put up in the NFL.
Hall of Famer.
Yeah, Hall of Fame. But that's what, I guess, Nicholas, that's what they're saying, right, at Hallis Hall, is that's what we're trying to build.
Yeah. Okay, but I gotta ask you, when you come around Peppers, because you're blindside, you're like, you probably can't see the linebackers at that point. You come around that, you're bubbling around like you said. I mean, what's going through your head?
Going through my head is, well, when I see them,
going through his head is Brian Urlacher and Lance Briggs, I would say.
I'm in a bad position. I see them, and I'm thinking, I have no chance here. Is what I'm thinking.
But I loved your response on Twitter. First down.
Well, it was first down. It was 34-13. We had 400 yards of offense. Ooh. We smashed them that game, right? But
they got one play.
They got one play on a 34-year-old center in his 14th year, in his 200th game.
When you're running the clock
and think about this now. they're pulling their 34-year-old center. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're a pretty good center if they're still pulling you at 34.
Yeah, true.
You know what I mean?
Did Urlacher and Briggs talk to you?
No.
After the play?
No. We
Or
talked
after
before, during, after. Listen, if you're a football player, like you get blown up, like that's like if Lack didn't try to do that to me, I wouldn't be happy with him. Like I was trying to blow him up, and he was trying through the whole game. Right, we are just going after each other. But if you watch the game and listen to it, Drew Brees yells opposite. So we're checking the play to the nose guard. As soon as he yelled opposite, I knew Lack and Briggs knew the play, and they know I'm pulling. So they came down here and blasted me, right? Sean Payton said, look, after the game, he said, those guys wanted to kill you. They didn't even care if we got the first down. I said, you noticed that, huh?
Yeah, no, they did. That's awesome. Hey, if you're enjoying what we're doing here on the CHGO Bears podcast, one way to help us to continue to grow is download the PointsBet app. Use that code CHGO when you sign up. Not only are you going to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000, but if you make a $50 or more first-time deposit, you'll receive a free CHGO membership, which unlocks all that web content we are talking about, and you even get that free T-shirt of your choice. I think my T-shirts are showing up today.
You think so?
That's what I got an email this morning.
Oh, okay.
So
nice.
I think I'm going to rock.
Oh, the CHGO
Yeah,
T-shirts.
Yeah, I think I'll be rocking one tomorrow.
The drip.
I'm optimistic. Yeah, the drip. I'll have that. Email pointsbet@allchgo.com if you have any questions. And if you missed it, online sign-up available in Illinois. Download the app now. Register your account from start to finish, all from your phone. What are you waiting for? Once the game starts, don't just bet. Live your bet life with PointsBet. Gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. We had a question
I had
earlier.
a gambling problem. I lost again on PointsBet. I bet on that Gilbert Burns Shumaya fight on UFC 273, and if anybody saw that fight, that was a war. But Gilbert Burns, Shumaya, Gilbert Burns ranked number 2 at 170. Shumaya is number 11, but he's so good he was favored.
Yeah.
I took Burns. I think he was like plus 200 or something, but I thought he won the fight, but they gave it to Shumaya. Good fight. I mean, I know it's not as interesting as curling, but it was a really good fight.
Hey, I was watching the curling on Saturday night.
Well, that's
There
what I'm
we
saying.
go.
It's not as interesting as curling, 2 guys fighting, but
Yeah.
sweeping ice is way more interesting.
USA couldn't beat
You had
Canada.
it on. They were huge underdogs.
Yeah.
And Brad Gushu in Canada. That's,
See that?
You can't.
Way more.
Hey,
Can you bet on curling?
yes, I was just about to say.
Can you really?
Points bet. There was now
So there's like favored teams.
in the
and
Olympics. You could bet on the teams that would win the gold medal.
who won the gold medal?
For Sweden won the gold in curling, and they also won last night against Canada in the World Championships in Las Vegas, which would have been really fun.
Could
to
you
go
bet
to.
on that one?
I did not. I have my limits. Hey, there was a good question from Ryan before we get out of here earlier in the show. Ryan M. Yep, there it is. He was wondering, Olin, if you could speak on Justin Fields was at the Blackhawks game the other night with all his offensive linemen, some other players. This comes up a lot in the offseason, pretty much for every team. The quarterback's hanging out. He's throwing the ball here. They're training in Georgia. They're doing whatever they're doing. As an offensive lineman, how much does that matter when your quarterback in the offseason's interacting with you, hanging out with you, whatever? Is it all?
Yeah, it matters. It matters just like any other business, right? You'll work better together as you get to know everybody and create some kind of chemistry, some kind of bond on and off the field. So that matters. Obviously, whether it was Grossman or Kyle Orton or Jay Cutler or Jim Miller or whoever it was of the 55 guys we snapped to, you always want to hang out with each other, get to know each other, get to know their families, get to know the person, and then you're just kind of, they always talk about family and creating that bond, and you guys are just talking about how do these Bears build that? That's one way, right? Justin Fields is out at the Blackhawks game. He's got to get to know his new center, Lucas Patrick. He's got to get to know all the guys in there. So have a good time. Enjoy your time in NFL because not everybody's not going to offer you boxes the rest of your life, right? So you get to go to Blackhawks game, sit in the box, go on the ice, hit the puck, have fun, put jerseys on. When you're young in your 20s, you're playing the NFL, it's time to enjoy all of that.
True.
Absolutely. All right. Well, appreciate everyone today. Hopefully everybody enjoyed the Tommie Harris interview. Again, if you jumped in here late to the live show, you want to go back or just ever miss any of our episodes, they're all available as podcasts. Wherever you listen to your podcast, just search for the CHGO Bears Podcast. Find our friends at PointsBet. Use that code CHGO. AllCHGO.com is where the memberships are at. Saw a couple comments in here about wanting draft content. We got a ton coming for you, I promise. And not only here on the show, also online at allchgo.com. Some of it's already been recorded. We got some special things coming out for you guys, breaking down different positions. So we promise we will not leave you hanging there. But for now, follow us on Twitter at CHGO Sports, at CHGO_Bears. I'm at Adam Hoge, at Nicholas Moreano, at Olin _Kreutz. Plenty of good content. You can find that play we were talking about earlier where Tommie Harris just wrecked the entire.
And the play I got wrecked. You find both.
Yeah.
On my Twitter page.
They're both really fun
They're
to
both
watch.
there.
Check it out. You got a little niche there. I'm encouraging you to keep that going.
What's that?
Old video. Put that on your Twitter account.
Yeah.
People like it.
Enjoy
People
it,
eat it up.
Yeah, I just, I have a bunch of old video.
Yeah.
It's just kind of, I did the one where they try to, what's his name, Kyle Brandt from the NFL Network, try to make my guy J Mac look bad. So
Ooh,
I put a bunch of good plays of J Mac blocking linebackers versus the Vikings. So I use it. It's just kind of, you want to make sure you make the old ball players look good.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's all on his Twitter account, so don't miss it. We are out of here. We'll be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. Talk to you then.